All right. Well, hello there again. And I'm going to say minimize my face again because that's just what I say all the time, I guess. So, face minimized. So how are things going today? Yeah, a little bit busy, kind of at work, doing doing a bunch of prep stuff. I got a release this weekend. Didn't really have to do much for it. Just one of my coworkers is having a baby soon, so they weren't sure if they'd be uh, around. I didn't know what the expecting on like December 1st, but you never quite know. So they were like, "Hey, can you be around and know kind of how to do this, just in case, just in case a baby happens?" And yeah, so trying to just be a decent human being and help out where I can so that they're not overwhelmed with a bunch of other things they need to worry about at the same time. So gotta help out with that this weekend. Not a not a huge thing, but still something. Ugh, yuck. Gotta do that at like midnight and then be up again to verify things at like 6 in the morning. Boo. Oh well. Complain all I want. Just the nature of the job. But that's enough of that. Things to talk about today. My background is kind of all video gamey characters. I'm kind of wanting to just reach behind me and grab like one of the characters there and just talk a little bit about like one of the games that I've kind of liked or played in the past. I don't know. Let's see. Let's go ahead and grab this one, I guess. So, by the way, the stuff on the back is just all amiibos. I think they're all amiibos. Yeah, most of them are from the Smash Brothers Ultimate. Was it Ultimate? I can't remember. Whenever they first started doing amiibos, from that first generation set, I like stand outside of like a bunch of it'd just be toy stores basically. Toy stores or video game stores. I remember there being like Toys R Us exclusive things, or unfortunately Walmart exclusive things, or Target exclusive, or Best Buy exclusive things. So it's like, okay, cool. Now I gotta sit in front of the store waiting for them to open so I can get one of these things before they're all sold out, because they were really good at selling out of these things. I don't know if anybody can see this. I'm not seeing my own screen. So yeah, that's Kirby. That's one of them. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that today. I remember, I guess a little bit more on kind of the getting things like me and a friend of mine were like really into doing this stuff together, getting these guys together. So we'd always like I think he was working overnights at the time, so it wasn't like a huge deal for him. But like me, I just like tell all my coworkers, it's like, hey, I need to go like sit in front of a toy store for about half an hour to an hour before it opens, so I can go get one of these little figures. I always bring them back, and everyone was kind of be like, "What were you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I was just getting toys." At that point, I didn't actually take them out of the box. This is new. Them being out of the box, like about a year new. Like I was really hesitant to take them out for the longest time. And I was like, I think I kind of want them to be on display. So that's how that ended up kind of happening. Initially thinking maybe like get like a trophy case kind of thing, but I'm kind of liking the little wall shelves and how they end up looking up there. So not the whole set anymore, because they kept coming out with new ones. But I guess it would have been Brawl. No, it was Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS that they started making all the amiibos. So that was all of them from that game, and then they kept coming out with more, and I was just like, I don't really feel like doing that anymore. There was a lot to collect. I didn't want to have to deal with the stress of trying to get a full set anymore. Did it once is enough, and they're nice. They look good on display, so can't complain. I enjoyed it. It was a fun little endeavor. So Kirby's kind of one of my favorite Nintendo characters, actually. I'm a really big Nintendo fanboy to begin with. I didn't really start liking Kirby until quite a bit later. Actually, I think I remember playing Dreamland for like, I can't remember, it would have been like in like a neighbor's basement once, and I was kind of like, that's an interesting game. I didn't like super dig it at the time. I think it was probably not until Kirby 64 and the Crystal Shards. That was probably the first time I really, really liked it for some reason. Actually, I take that back. There was another. I didn't get the game, but my sister, she had. I believe it was. I can't remember which number it was. Gosh, it's gonna bug me. I can't remember this. It had the hamster, the fish, and the owl in it, and you could work with them or use them as kind of mounts in the game. And that was on like Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color days. I remember playing a little bit of that and really liking it, but it was the first game that was mine that I picked up that I ended up really liking from the Kirby series was Crystal Shards. I don't know, it was just like really, really fun mixing like copy abilities. This is probably basic rudimentary knowledge, but in case people aren't aware, Kirby's ability is to basically eat things and then use their powers afterwards. So some of the enemies were like knights that could throw little swords that came back, and people or other enemies like had like actual swords that you'd swing around, or you'd have ones that breathe fire or breathe ice, and when Kirby inhaled them and then swallowed them, he would get their power until he took a hit, basically, and then the power would fall out, and you can either try and get it back or just let it go and then try and get another one. So it was always kind of neat, like trying to pick up one of the abilities that you really liked going through a level. And there were some cases where it's like, oh yeah, you need a certain one to be able to get to a certain area, but that wasn't at the time that I was playing. That's not how I was really playing it. I was just sort of using the ones that I liked and sort of getting through with the ones that I just preferred from a personal standpoint, rather than trying to collect everything in the game. But Kirby 64 Crystal Shards introduced being able to combine those copy abilities, which on paper is kind of like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I remember reading the Nintendo Power issue that was going over it. I was like, those are pretty neat combinations of skills. I really liked how some of them looked, where it's like, okay, you pick up a needle enemy and a fire enemy, and you're able to no, was it swords? I think it was sword. No, sword and fire was you actually got a fire sword. I think it was needle and fire, where you would Kirby would turn into a giant bow, and then you can like tilt him back and fire off the arrow, and it would land somewhere else. And there was like other things like fire and bomb, where you can make Kirby turn into like fireworks for a bit. Rock and fire turns him into a volcano that shoots little rocks at things. So it was a neat like combination of things, and they were all pretty clever implementations. I remember that was like the first kind of, maybe it was like the first game kind of ever that I was wanting to do like a sort of, I need to complete everything. Or maybe I was just in a phase from like Pokemon coming out, where I wanted to like collect everything. I'm going to put this down because it probably looks a little weird just holding my hands up here. But yeah, being able to tell all those combinations of abilities that you would need to be able to collect the shards, the crystals that were hidden throughout all of the worlds. I think each place had except for the first couple levels, I think all of them had 3 that were hidden. And it was always kind of fun trying to bring one of the abilities from a previous level and combining that with an ability that showed up in that level, and that is how you would get what you needed to break a wall or a barrier that you that was required to get one of those hidden collectibles. I don't know why. It was just really, really fun. Uh, Trying to put those together in the days before, being able to look everything up online. They made it pretty clear by usually taking the colors of the abilities that you needed to break that barrier and incorporating that somehow into the design of like the wall or the rock or something that could be destroyed. So it was a nice little romp. From there on out, I think I got a good chunk of them, especially the handheld games after that. But I think beyond Kirby 64, probably Kirby's Epic Yarn was probably one of the most solid games that I've ever kind of played, actually. It's very cutesy. The aesthetic was just amazing, and interestingly, Kirby did not have a copy ability for that game. That was just pure platforming in that iteration of the character. It was really kind of interesting, having grown to expect that and then having it taken away, and being baked into the story too, that Kirby couldn't swallow anything because he was basically a string. So that was a fun little thing there. But he could transform himself into different shapes to do different maneuvers. Like if instead of like going to run or something, Kirby turns into a little car and it makes a little beep beep sound when he starts going. Like, it's just like all the perfect little aesthetic things that make that game really nice. And there were a ton of collectibles that you can get, just a ton. And you can kind of choose your difficulty to an extent. And Nintendo's generally pretty good with that, where the core game isn't terrible to get through. You don't have to be like terribly skilled to get through most Nintendo games, but there's a pretty good skill ceiling hidden within those collectibles, if you so choose to get them. For Kirby's Epic Yarn, that was something that I really enjoyed doing, just kind of using that character in a purely platforming sense, trying to solve puzzles in ways that the character normally doesn't have to solve puzzles. It was kind of interesting. And then just the music was also phenomenal. It was like a lot of piano tracks and just really light percussion, and I think a lot of the boss style things ended up being very jazzy. It was very, very interesting. A quaint little game. Another game that came out that was very similar in the same vein was Yoshi's Woolly World, but I gave that one a shot because it fit kind of the same aesthetic. I thought maybe I'd go with like the 100% collectathon type playthrough, and that one was just rough. I don't know what the difference was between that, other than maybe people who play like Yoshi's Island and things like that or Yoshi's Story were just sort of they remember those very difficult collectathon type things, and was sort of bringing that back. And Kirby's Epic Yarn just wasn't to that level, so it was kind of interesting. I don't think I played too many Kirby games since, but just the character design is phenomenal. For Smash Brothers, he's a character that I tend to go back to, even though he's not really meta or anything, but pulling him out and being able to play him well is actually kind of a surprise to a lot of people. So that's a fun one to play in Smash Brothers as well. Anywho, I think that's probably enough ranting about Kirby and a bit about waiting in line for toys. Yeah, usually fun little stories to bring back up. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up for today and for this week too. Well, week 2 TOO, but it's also, I think, the end of the second week of doing this. So yeah, hopefully that was enjoyable for you, and have a great day and a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.